A very good afternoon to everyone. I'm Rachayata, and on behalf of Logistics Insider, I welcome you all to a very special LinkedIn Live session on gauging the impact of Israel-Hamas war on logistics and supply chain from an Indian perspective. The Israel Hamas war is a long standing and deeply rooted geopolitical struggle. Characterized by intermittent periods of intense violence, it has had far reaching consequences that extend beyond the region's borders. Other than the loss of thousands of lives, the war has also resulted in multiple military confrontations and ongoing tensions, leading to significant repercussions in various aspects of global affairs. To discuss the critical and far reaching impact of this war and what needs to be the plan of action to deal with the current and expected challenges it brings along, we have today with us an esteemed panel of supply chain experts. Let me quickly introduce you to them, starting with the moderator of today's show, Lieutenant Colonel Vijay Nair, founder and consultant Sarthak Solutions, and former Vice President and Head of Integrated Electronic Supply Chain at Reliance Retail. Lieutenant Colonel Nair is a highly experienced professional who successfully transitioned from a distinguished military career in the Indian Army to a prominent role in the corporate supply chain management and operations management. And he holds nearly 4 decades of expertise in these fields. The values instilled in him during his military service have been crucial to his success in the corporate world. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next up, let me call upon Mr. Tushar Jani, Chairman of Cargo Service Center Group and SCA Group of Companies. With over 4 decades of experience in the realm of supply chain and logistics, Mr. Jani is a decorated leader of the industry. He is also a crucial member of various industry councils and associations. Ahead of his time, Mr. Jani foresaw the growth of logistics business in India and has been instrumental in spearheading industry organizations. Welcome to the show, sir. Next up, we have Lieutenant Colonel Atul Kholkar, Director of Supply Chain at Africa at PepsiCo Varun Beverages Limited. He's a supply chain professional with more than 30 years of experience and also a geopolitical expert. And he is a scholar of the New World Order from Leiden University, Netherlands. His experience in supply chain management, operations, and logistics spans across diverse sectors such as FMCG, retail, e commerce, and defense. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Our next speaker today is Mr. Ajay Singh, Vice President Supply Chain Management at Hindustan Platinum. Mr. Singh is a supply chain transformational business leader with 30 plus years of experience in developing, structuring, operating, and delivering multifunctional, tactical, and strategic assignments, predominantly in supply chain management. He has various accolades to his name, including the CPO of the Year 2023, Top 20 Visionary Supply Chain Leader of the Year 2023, among a lot of others. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Rajendra.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kunal Dua, Market Intelligence Manager at Container Exchange. Mr. Dua, in his current role, is responsible for creating market reports, conducting thorough analysis, and developing compelling point of views to build strong relationships with customers and prospects. With 1 decade of industry expertise, he has been a part of many prestigious organizations, including KPMG and IHS Markit. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I welcome all of you to the show once again. And before we move on, I'd like to inform the audience that we will be taking your questions towards the end of the show. So please leave them in the comments section below. And with this, I'd like to pass the baton to our moderator, and I will see you towards the end of the show. Over to you, Vijay sir.
Thank you
We
very
are
much,
all
Rajendra.
excited. We are all excited for an insightful and intriguing discussion, and we hope that it fosters informed dialogue, responsible business practices, and diplomatic efforts to stable and ethical trade relations. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Racheta. Welcome to the panelists and welcome to all the audience who are listening to us. The Palestine militant group, Hamas, launched an unprecedented assault on Israel on 7th of October, with hundreds of gunmen infiltrating communities near the Gaza Strip. More than 1,400 Israelis were killed, while the Israeli military says that over 230 soldiers and civilians, including women and children, were taken to Gaza as hostages. More than 8,000 Palestinians have been killed by air and artillery strikes. Israeli troops have now amassed along the border and they are doing limited strikes. We can expect more deaths, damages to the infrastructure and the people at Gaza. The ongoing strife between Israel and Hamas is expected to result in increased food and energy crisis. Such a crisis could accentuate the economic consequences, resulting in the dual shock to the commodity prices globally, most of which is still grappling with the impact of Russia-Ukraine war. If this war tends to extend beyond the boundaries of Israel and Gaza and West Bank, this is going to have a consequent effect on the inflation and the global economy at large. A drastic oil price shock could increase the commodity prices and intensify the food price inflation, especially in the developing countries where they're already dealing with levels of hunger due to the Ukraine war. I'm indeed honored to have such an eminent panel, and in the next 40 minutes or so, we'll try and provide you a kind of 360-degree view, starting with the geopolitical perspective, impact on the _EXIM both in the West Asia and in India. We'll also discuss some of the humanitarian aspects and some implication of the global projects that are underway, and also talk of some risk mitigation efforts. We will start with Mr. Ajay, and who will be followed by Mr. Atul, who will give us a view on the geopolitics of the region so that we get the perspective of the area and how the global supply chains could get impacted in this area. So, Ajay sir, you can start, please.
Yeah, so I think the context you have set it for the geopolitical situation where we are now. Uh, One upon another, we are facing challenges across the globe, and particularly to this particular Israel-Hamas war. What is happening is various sectors are getting affected. If I'll say it like organic chemical fertilizers, steel industries, even the design part of the chip manufacturing is one of the major area which is really getting impact of this war which is currently going on. When I talk about the organic chemicals and other material, which is basically predominant in this area, within the GCC and country close to Israel. So that is being highly getting impacted because of the movement. There are a lot of constraints on the shipping companies, which is coming in for the movement of these hazardous goods, which is basically this material comes under the uh, either it's a group 8 or hazmat or some other groups of material, which is really impacting a lot in this movement across the globe. And we are seeing the price escalation of the crude pricing going beyond 60s to now 90s, and then again stabilizing somewhere in 80s. But the impact will be there highly on the each and every segment of industry, whether it is a food or pharma or any other industry, which is going to see the changes across the globe. As I said, the chip manufacturing is the design part is one of the critical factor across the globe, and we have seen the shortages year back. And again, the head chip designing is Israel's one of the part of the where all dependency is there across the globe, whether it is Apple or any other manufacturer, are totally depend upon the design part, and which is really taking a part like okay the lead time, especially the lead time constraints are increasing day by day. What we have seen in other wars, whether the lead time has gone from 6 to 9 months, here we are predicting the lead time of getting material, especially from the GCC and other region, which is now being part of this one another discussions about who will supporting whom. So if I'll see it from the India perspective, and when we are importing material from GCC countries, which was around 3 to 4 months of complete turnaround time, is going now 6 to 9 months to 12 months now what we are forecasting, and this is going to be a very big impact on the refiners like us, where we are totally dependent upon 70% of our import from the GCC countries. So we need to change the gear for that. That is my take for on the initial comment on this.
Thank you very much, Ajay. So let's understand the geography and the geopolitical position of this. And I'll request Atul, could you take this on, please?
Yeah, thank you, Karan. Uh, as the in during my introduction, it was mentioned that I am, a scholar of emerging world order. That is the crux of all the conflicts currently we see across the world. Right? There's an emerging China supported by Russia and a declining West where a weaker Europe and a weaker United States is confronting them. This is all war of proxies. And we look both on our east or west in India, we find the conflicts are happening, whether it is in current conflict, which is a smaller one as of now, that is between Hamas and Israel. Then there is a conflict which is already ongoing and crossed 1 year, that is Russia and Ukraine. Then third, which is likely to happen, but it's a hotbed as of now, is the South China Sea. And all three conflicts have the ability to flare up fast and will give us very little notice as far as trade is concerned. So it's very, very much important that we understand as to how this is going to impact us. But one thing is very clear. This is called the war of proxies. Both Hamas and Israel are proxies. Who is behind them is the West, the Russians and the Chinese. Iran, whatever they are trying to do as of now, is supported by, in a way, Russia, but prompted by Chinese. So there is this entire churning in the world order that is taking place, and both the sides are trying to put as many impediments as possible for others to actually slow down. And this is going to have a big impact on entire trade across the world, whether it is related to food chain, which we already have been witnessing from Ukraine war, where when it comes from the Black Sea to Mediterranean Sea and the trade routes, or it is the Israel-Hamas war, which is currently limited. It has got no impact on oil as of now. But the fact is, if Iran jumps into this fray, then there is a likelihood of delays and disruption both in Strait of Hormuz, which is the main oil supply line, or you would see somewhere around more delays happening at Suez Canal, because Mediterranean will become a very army or navy flooded sea for a brief period of time. If we also see other aspects as to where if you see the disruptions that are happening, which is going to impact the Israel supply chain, India per se would be impacted very little. As per the last numbers, we have been exporting around $8 billion worth of goods, importing around $2 billion worth of goods. So there will be minor impact, but it would be definitely impacting us. And I think Kunal has got numbers onto the disruption of trade routes. Kunal, you can take it from here and explain to us as to what are the numbers which are coming out if the disruption of trade route happens.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So, as you were talking about trade numbers, I just want to show few trade numbers that Israel has. Hope my screen is visible. So Israel's trade with China, US, Germany, and India is affected by the conflict for sure. As you can see on the screen, there is a trade imbalance between Israel's trade with China. So with China being a major importer of Israeli goods, while Israel's export to China are somewhere around 4.5 billion, the conflict may disrupt trade flows, particularly concerning Israel's high-tech exports that they do for China. Then, if we talk about US, it is also a critical trade partner for Israel, and exports plays a crucial role in the relationship. As you can see, Israel exports around 18.5 billion worth of goods to US. That includes like high-tech products and defense-related items. But unfortunately, the conflict has the potential to strain this diplomatic relations between the two countries, which could impact Israel exports to the US. Similarly, if we see the Germany is another key European trade partner for Israel, and the conflict might have adverse effects on this trade relationship because Israel exports worth 2 billion stuff to the Germany, which could be affected, adding further economic uncertainties. And as you already talked about India, so it also holds a significant position. And as you can see, the exports and imports, so the conflict could potentially disrupt this bilateral trade and leads to uncertainties and disruptions in Israel's exports to India. So, in the face of ongoing conflict, I would just say like Israel is in a complex and challenging trade landscape with potential challenges for its exports to key partners, for example, China, US, Germany, and India. And these trade disruptions underscore the far reaching consequences of regional conflicts on global economic relationships. So, over to you, Atul sir.
Yeah, thank you, Kunal. So I'll just put across a few bullets, and Atul and Kunal, if you want to join, you can do after that. Number one is that if the battle zone expands to the balance of the West Asian region, then there could be possible disruption of trade routes, as something which Atul said. The Suez and the Strait of Hormuz particularly carry huge amount of world trade. Geopolitical implications is that the Mediterranean happens to be the gateway to Europe. So Germany, Turkey, Italy all fall in the Mediterranean, and in these regions now they got major ports in there which transport goods from here by road and rail into the interior of Europe. Now this is another area which get impacted if the entire area gets activated. Oil market volatility is a given, but so far we have not seen much. It did raise in the beginning, but it stabilized. Israel supply chain, Kunal spoke about it. Yes, Israel supply chain, and Ajay also spoke about it. Where what is the impact of Israel supply chain to this? Currently, the ports are functioning okay. We got our own Haifa, which is the largest port run by Adani. So that's generally functioning well. The delays are minimal. However, with the conscription of the entire force of Israel actual active force is just about 10%. The balance force comes from the conscriptions. Now, if the conscription people get back into the army, there have got to be delays in the ports. Impact on Europe. Europe is reeling through a very high level of inflation. If this war goes on, it's going to get the economy is going to get further impacted. And Indian trade perspective, we'll pick up the Indian trade perspective first, and I will request Tusharji to actually talk on the Indian trade perspective. What happens currently, and what will happen in case the war extends beyond the boundaries of the current West Asia, the current Israel West Bank area.
Karan Nair, can I add one small point?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just while you were winding up this thing, one thing is, as I said, it is war of proxies. Please understand this entire, small little spark that has been ignited between Israel and Hamas has much deeper implication, and probably something else is being planned. And that is why, you see, if the US is stretched, that is the main stabilizing power in the world. If US resources are stretched in Mediterranean and Gulf and Middle East region, the weakness will come somewhere in South China Sea. So just one point we should not ignore, which is what is the real motive of bringing this war at this stage, where comparatively it was very peaceful. It just exploded in just about 1 month, right? It was reasonably peaceful. People were talking about, peace between UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel going to the next level. So why is US being committed to this particular region? Is it to weaken South China Sea? Just a very important point to keep pondering on.
Thank you, Atul. Yes, it's very rightly said that this proxy war, even if it is the Israel and Hamas who are fighting, it's the proxy forces which are going to decide the outcome of the war. And US, as you said, is stretched both in Ukraine also. So many deals that we're going through now. There was a deal which is going on through US and Saudi Arabia, which has also gone into a limbo. Tushar sir, please.
Thank you, Vijay. Colonel Holkar, I think you put a right perspective in terms of geopolitics. I have some counter view, what Kunal put it in terms of Israel business getting affected with US or Germany, where US and Germany both are supporting out and out Israel. I do not see any economic relationship weaken between these two countries. On the contrary, the trade will increase between Israel and these countries. Supply chain is a different aspect, but you see President Biden took a flight into Tel Aviv to meet the Israeli Prime Minister. And they have no choice but to support Israel. Okay. Just to take a bit to what Colonel said, Colonel Holkar said, I think the Colonel Holkar put it very rightly. This is the proxy war. So look at all what happened. The whole thing was planned when Israel they had this community celebration happening during this period. And it's that particular town where community celebration happening, and it's something they have related to the social for continuing for generations to come. That's what they were doing. And look at what happened. The Russians gave technology, the Chinese gave money, and Iran gave equipment, right? That's what happened actually. So it is a proxy war. And for Russia, it was to divert attention from Ukraine. For China, to divert attention from South China Sea for them to, and for Iran, it was kind of good opportunity. I think the biggest loser into the whole thing is Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia was coming to a different position where they were trying to make deal with Iran as well as Israel both. And Saudi wanted to emerge as the largest trade player into the whole global game. And of course, within GCC, let's not forget, 48% GDP of GCC comes from Saudi. And the kind of money what they have and the kind of expansion plan what they have has, come to some sort of standstill. So having said that, my personal belief that Suez Canal will not be stopped, because that would be disaster. Then you have a world war if that happens, right? And I don't think any of the country can afford world war, including China. We know what's the Russia current situation and what the US and European situation. Because after Ukraine war and COVID, they really have gone into very high inflation zone. So they can't afford war. The Israel is looking this as an opportunity to do the finish game vis-a-vis Hamas is concerned. Will they able to do it? US has been stopping them to invade. They're asking to delay. And there is something what is happening on the back, which we don't know. Coming back to as India, Vijay, to your question, I think I look at it, India as a great opportunity in my mind. There's a lot of places which we can kind of complement what Israel was doing, right? In terms of IT services, in terms of design, and high-end exports in terms of specialty chemicals, which Mr. Singh was mentioning, which India has emerged as a specialty chemical, replacing quite a bit of China. And I think if we take this in our hand, this is a great opportunity. And I think so South China, India is going to play a bigger role now, in terms of prominent. Will that drag us into a war? Now, India has played a very tactical position. They've remained neutral with Ukraine and Russian war. They've remained neutral here too, right? A lot of people question that why we did not vote at the UN resolution, but it makes sense. I think India is looking to protect its supply chain, primarily if you look at it. And if you keep on hearing what our external affairs minister is talking about, and the way they're taking very, I would say, uh, protected steps. So, other than oil, and vis-a-vis Mr. Singh said about oil, I heard that we are now looking Venezuela and the other part in the world to get our oil supply. So I think that we need to, the Indian export community has to take this as an opportunity. And let's work towards that, how we can make it big. And India also would be neutral in terms of supply chain. So probably a lot of hubbing will happen, where you will be able to, which is happening with Russia today. A lot of goods are coming into India, then going to Russia, other value addition or direct or whatever may be. So we have an opportunity, and I believe India is correctly taking steps as neutral to protect our supply chain. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you very much, Tushar sir. Excellently put. Ajay, you had mentioned something earlier on the trade situation. Could you please expand on that, specific to the Middle East trade and the impact on India? After that, I'll come to you, Kunal.
Yeah. So the way I was mentioning about is many of the from the GCC countries, the imports, which is slowly getting impacted. If I'll see it in the business where we operate in the refining services, what we see that our main portfolio around 70% comes from the GCC countries and 30% from other Asia Pacific countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, those countries. So that what we are seeing it currently is the delay in contractual things slowly, because the most of these refineries are run by the government agencies, and they are in a different mode of now situation where it is not directly being told, okay, it is going to slow down, but the effect we are seeing it, and that is largely impacting our the import ratios. It is not only logistically delays or any supply chain delays, but the structurally challenges being there on the contractual part of it. So for that, we are having our own strategy where to move it to other Asia Pacific country, because we have to run our capacity and full way. As I was mentioning, during COVID, everything has been done from China plus to India plus in the specialty chemicals, where India become a hub of specialty chemicals. A lot of excess capacity has been built up, and India has become like one of the major contributor in specialty chemicals across the globe. So that is where we are looking into it, and that disruptions we are very closely watching how to tackle this situation, whether it is logistically, whether the supports are being there, because what I'm seeing in last 15 days, there are a lot of statutory compliance is being now shipping companies are adhering. Though, for a classical example, if suppose our goods are class 8 in a JARDAS category and packing group 3, which is has certain set of documentation, but again it is being going into a lot of approval process that is actually delaying the timeline of at least moving the goods from GCC countries to India. So that is what my takeaway on this.
Thank you, Ajay. Uh, what we're trying to really say is that Israel conflict is a case in point, and how is it that we juxtapose this into situations that could arrive in this in future? We have pointed out some flashpoints. Kunal, could you add to what Mr. Ajay said, wherein he's talked about the trade aspects? Now, you could put some facts and figures on it. I know you're a numbers man. To actually make this, actually give a resounding point on this, please.
Sure. So if we talk about Middle East, so when discussing the impact of Israel on Middle East, it's essential to recognize the sensitivity of crude oil prices. So as of now, the ongoing conflict has had a very limited effect on global commodity markets, since I can say since the outbreak of the crisis, oil prices have increased just by 6%, while most other commodity markets, including industrial metals, agricultural commodities, they have experienced minimal price increase. But on the same point, if the situation is evolving, and with Israel's military expanding its ground operations in Gaza, oil prices have witnessed a notable increase in the last 2 weeks, in the last 15 days, as Ajay sir was also mentioning. So this development has raised concerns among the economists and policymakers about potential disruptions to the global supply chains and the commodity market. And it's worth noting that we were already been formulating strategies to address the inflation caused by Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has had a lasting impact on the global economy, and it's also right now also it's there. So on the fact of that, the latest World Bank study also mentioned these concerns. So according to World Bank's quarterly commodity markets, if the conflict escalates further, so the global economy could face a significant energy shock from the let's say first time in these decades. So these concerns are driven by the aftermath of Russians' recent war with Ukraine and the ongoing Middle East crisis, we all know. In fact, the World Bank also issued a warning, indicated that a further escalation of tensions, potentially leading to a broader Middle East conflict, might result in oil prices soaring as far as over 75%, which is a huge number. Under the worst case scenario, if major oil producers such as Saudi Arabia were to reduce supplies, this could lead to oil prices reaching historically high. If I have to quote a number, then it might go to $157 per barrel. So this underscores the need for vigilance and proactive assessment to manage the potential impact that Israel conflict on trade in the Middle East. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Kunal. So we are sitting on a risk, and I think we should discuss what the risk mitigation measures would be. I'll go to Colonel Atul. We have got three major risks that have been pointed out. Number one is that the impact of the oil prices going up and the consequent uh, global economy getting impacted. Secondly, we said even if the conflict is limited to the Mediterranean area, so there will be some kind of risks which are related to the marine freight, which could be in terms of freight rates going up, which could be in the terms of the insurance and the reinsurance costs going up. So let's talk about a few risk mitigation efforts at all levels, maybe at the governmental level, at the world organization level, at India level. So Atul, please.
Yeah. Nair, before I come to the measures which we would like to take in view of the conflicts and likely conflagration that is going to happen, I also like to add as to I'm also looking at the point as to who will end this conflict. Now that is becoming a major problem in the world. United Nations has lost all its credibility. Earlier conflicts, whenever it happened between the Palestine groups and Israel, the Russians and the Americans more or less were in tandem working towards bringing that peace. But this time, the most concerning aspect is the Russians have toned up their entire discussion to an anti-Israel kind of a attitude, right? So that itself removes Russia out of any kind of mediation. That leaves no credible player. We may like to say India is a credible player, but we do not have that kind of sway on Hamas and other leaders, and even can't force even the other Iranians to do that. So I expect this particular thing to go on for quite some time. It may keep going down a little bit, but it will keep flaring up once in a while for some time to come. Keeping that in mind, the oil prices are likely to go up, definitely. I mean, we have to start looking as supply chain experts to all our requirements of fuel, and what are the alternate sources, what stability, though India is now talking to Venezuela to get the oil from there. But fact is, oil would be one of the areas which can lead to inflation. Inflation will bring depreciation in rupee, and imports will become slightly more costlier. So it has got that kind of a cyclic impact that is going to happen on the economy. Government is in election mode right now, so would try everything best possible to stabilize the situation. Besides that, in case there is some disruption of trade movement, the container at some stage will become, though Chinese economy is not booming, so obviously the containers may be available in large numbers, but may be impacted from that perspective. As supply chain leaders, we need to really keep watching this entire thing unfolding, watch the government measures which government is taking, In case you are sourcing from outside, expect longer lead times. Key ingredients or RMPM, whatever you're planning for, if they are coming from conflict zone or likely to impact by the conflict, you should be looking at price rise in those inputs which are happening to your goods. So these are the major areas, Karan Nair, which I think we should be watching. Like in COVID, we were taken aback. Last moment we realized, oh, we have been talking about all those lean inventories and a just in time kind of thing. We should now start preparing ourselves. Don't be taken aback by a shock moment that suddenly you have a problem in the world.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you. That is so well put. Tushar sir, now could you please give us, there is a little bit of a touch with the trade priorities and the humanitarian priorities. Now, how do we balance the two in a global trade kind of a situation, wherein now when the war is now going to come to a kind of a standstill, like I don't think this war will get much extended. It's just a total air stretch of 27 kilometers. If Israel wishes to, it can run through in a day. But again, they're also looking at the humanitarian aspects. How do we balance the humanitarian versus the trade issues? Tushar sir, first you, then I'll go back to Ajay. You're mute, sir.
I think so. On humanitarian ground, India was first to send their freighters with the aid material. And India has always said on terms of humanity. I think that we should take a forefront on that as India to support humanitarian support. As far as the war is concerned, I think Israel will like to finish this time with the agenda that they have a permanent solution. They can't, someone cannot walk in your home and take away 300 your people hostage and take it away. The Hamas is now going to get out of the system. It can be controlled, not controlled, we don't know. In terms of meditation, in terms of the intermediary, Qatar is trying to play that role, and how far they would be successful. But I'm sure US and Russia would be back of it to do that. So, all these GCC countries will come. I'm here in Dubai, and I know so much material is being collected to forward to them. They've got to pass this through Egypt, and it will go. And I'm sure Israel will be pressurized to give the passage for the humanitarian material. And we see on the TV the destruction, what is happening, which is painful, in terms of people, infrastructure, the way people are going through, the children are suffering. And that is going to continue for some time, I think so. Our trade, as I said, as long as our supply chain trade lanes are secure, and I believe as far as shipping is concerned, the Suez Canal, nobody would block it. I don't think so. Neither Russia, China group, or nor US and Western group. They will keep that going, because China needs export into Europe and US now. Their economy is suffering, right? And they're trying to make it patch with the US, and US trying to make patch with them, because US is worried about if China dumped the dollars, their currency would almost go to, you already see the pressure on US currency. So I think that's how your Henry Kissinger going all the way to China to try to build that bridge. It's still on a working stage. So our trade, as far as we are concerned, our trade with China will go down for sure, right? As I said yesterday, at least on the air cargo, 17 to 18% of our trade is down with China. I don't know on the sea cargo, but it is down, and general feeling is not to place order with the Chinese companies. In terms of Europe and US, their reliance on us will increase in time to come. You've seen what Apple has done. Apple will try to send more and more manufacturing into India. We'll see more and more companies doing that. So we have a good opportunity, as I said, right? As long as we can secure our trade lane going, And that's where we are playing a neutral role. We're neither saying with this side, because imagine for our Prime Minister to come on the first straight reaction that we are supporting Israel, right? But that was primarily because of the terrorist attack, right? And of course, we amend our way, our corridor, which is planned corridor between India via Middle East, Haifa, and then go into Europe. Uh, to me, Haifa was a player which was, I always felt that was little adventurous, but that would take impact on that. Anyway, that project is for next 100 years. It's not going to happen overnight. Uh, so that's what we'll see. And our proximity with the GCC, I don't see that as a worry. Our Prime Minister has an excellent relationship with the GCC administration, both UAE and Saudi, both which are key important. Of course, our relationship with Qatar is little going in a weak wicket, but that will come forward wherever it is. Our trade today is more with US and Europe. Can we secure that? Can we replace Israel now along with China? And that's an opportunity we have. So I think we should look at it, what Israel was supplying. And, somebody mentioned what Israel, I think, Vijay, you were mentioning in terms of chips, in terms of specialty chemicals, in terms of IT services. And immediately, I think we have that scale to replace. And it is a good news. If China was depending on Israel, then China would be soft to us to look, because they won't overnight find somebody supplying them. And if China is openly supported with the Hamas side, then they will have to come depending on to the India. And Russia probably will play a role between India and China. So we need to see how it goes. So in terms of trade, if I'm an exporter or I'm a manufacturer, great opportunity. Jump it, double your capacity, increase your production, go around, take your bags, move around. So that's what my point of view, Vijay.
So, sir, no wonder they call you supply chain visionary. You have seen so many opportunities. I hope the rest of the trade community and the audience are watching are also seeing this opportunity. Yes, so true. While Israel is a case in point, like I was saying, but the opportunity lies worldwide. It is, how are we going to take away whatever China is not getting? What are we going to take away what Israel is not getting? And the market is there. The market is only going to grow. The moment Europe wakes up, it stands up, it's now currently going through a low, it's going to come up sometime. Meanwhile, we have that time to build up an infra. Once that happens, I think we should be racing far ahead of China very soon. Ajay sir, do you want to add something?
Vijay, just
Yeah,
one last point.
yes, sir.
The European, they're aging, and they have no next generation to take over their businesses. I urge every Indian to take your checkbook and buy companies in Europe. This is the best time for us. And that will secure your supply chain, your trade, and everything. This is the time. So, two things. Air India has come up on, you have seen, I'm telling you, the Air India is making so much difference. We are getting goods from US into Dubai via Delhi on Air India. We are getting goods from Europe to Australia coming via Delhi. So imagine the small thing, 30% transshipment goods have increased in Delhi in last 6 months, right? So that's an opportunity. We need to build our Indian shipping line now on a container, because that will secure our supply chain. That's what China had done. We need a large, Kunal, for you, I'm telling you, we need a large Indian container shipping line, right? We've got bulk carriers. I'm sure Mr. Singh is not worried about getting his supply in terms of shipping. But our goods, we need to secure with our own Indian container shipping line. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you very much. Ajay, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think I will echo the whole context set by Mr. Tushar on this. Just wanted to add one thing is we have seen a lot of volatility in a context is last 20-25 years. Like, okay, we have seen Y2K thing happening in 2000, financial crisis happening in 2009, 8. And then COVID, we have seen in 2019. So, and we have survived with all. India has seen a growth on this all. And it's a big opportunity for us to be in the sector where at least we can move across. That's what but temporarily we have to diversify our import or export or the customer base or supply base to different countries to sustain the whole supply chain we are working, because we have seen the inventory being rising from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months during the Ukraine-Russia war. And again, we are predicting that it may again cause for an inventory pile up, which is really work as a cost for the organization. So we need to look in from the both perspective of cost and availability of material. That is where we are working on it. For as far as the shipping and avoiding the routes and other things, it is a temporary phase. I think we are situation will not come at that. Otherwise, it will be a world war, as I think Mr. Tushar has mentioned earlier. I think every country is very sensitive. They are knowing it that okay, trade has to move on, irrespective of whatever happening. We are seeing in India that US, Ukraine and Russia war situation. The impact will be little bit will be there for industry like. For certain types of goods, whether hazardous and other things, there will be insurance part will be adding up, flaring up, adding the cost to it. So those aspects have to be there where we have to do the risk mitigations.
Atul bhai, Tushar mentioned about IMEC. Now, President Biden also gave a statement that one of the causes or reasons why this conflict could have occurred or may have occurred is IMEC could be one of the causes. I don't totally agree to this, but I would like to hear your views.
Yeah. So, sir, basically, IMEC, it was announced during G20 in India. They may have been working in the back channels for 1 year back before that, but it cannot be, because the reason for this particular thing, this is bigger than that. IMEC is still at conceptual stage. It will take another 4 5 years even to put the basic system in place. So this is not the reason. The reason is something else, because this entire preparation, if you see the attack on 7th of October, it would have at least taken minimum 1 year to prepare those people getting inside. They had very specific information. They had very specific points of attack. They knew what the role each of these, terrorists is going to perform when they enter into Israel, how many hostages they should bring in, all those kind of things. And Israel was taken aback by the surprise attack that was launched on 7th. The world was taken aback, right? So I don't think IMEC actually played any role. But one thing which I'm quite sure is the entire process of normalization of relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia and UAE boosted that. But the background to this is Russian and Chinese giving it back to the Western world due to their loss of face in Ukraine war.
Thank you very much, Atul. Yes, there are 2 or 3 major agreements that were going on. One was the US and Saudi Arabia, the agreements. The second is the I2U2, which is again India, Israel, Saudi Arabia, US. Now, all these have gone into a limbo, and this has all gone to a stall phase. Now, we don't know how this will get picked up. Saudi Arabia has got its own constraints where it should support. It has to be with the Arab world, yet wants to be the guy who plays the kingmaker kind of a role in West Asia, where he wants to take the ascendancy of leadership in that region. We have had a great discussion. I think we have covered almost all, plus a few more than what was there in the scope. So before I conclude, I will give each one of you about a minute or so to give your final views on what we have discussed so far, and what is your forward-looking thought on this, and what would you like to recommend. I will start with Kunal first. Kunal, please.
Sure. Thank you. So I'll talk about the forward-looking things. So as per my views, building sustainable trade relations, particularly in conflict regions, requires a combination of diplomatic efforts, dialogues, discussions, collaboration, and policy changes. And if I talk about policy changes and international agreements, that should be tailored to the specific needs of each region, while promoting ethical business practices, transparency, and accountability. And the nations should engage in regular high level talks to address underlying issues and support for international organizations. We were talking about UN, United Nations, and the regional bodies. That is very crucial for decreasing these conflicts and promoting peaceful resolutions. Secondly, open line of communication between the nations, business, and other stakeholders are key to building trust and understanding within each other. On the same point, like regular dialogues can help prevent misunderstanding and reduce tensions. So this integrated approach can contribute to peace and prosperity in even these most challenging environment, geopolitical environment that we are seeing.
Thank you so much, Kunal. Yes, business matters, and if business is good, maybe war may not take place. If business is too good, probably war may take place because you have to have a lot of money to do it. Sometimes you have a situation where a country which has got no resources, which survives on doles and aids, is now started a war which is actually impacting the world economy. Ajay, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so on the geopolitical things, I think UN has to play a vital role into this, which is still we are seeing at a missing point. As far as the business is concerned, I think for India, it is moving in a very right direction. As Kunal said, the agreements, the FTA agreements, which is being going around, like we have seen a very good yielding result of, from Japan and other Asia Pacific countries. And last year, India has signed FTA with UAE and Australia. I think that is moving in a very right direction, which is giving a nation to nation connect. And as for industry and a business perspective, it is moving in a very right direction. So, and for particular to this conflicts, diversifying our supply chain based is only one of the things what we can do as a business owners and business industry where we have to run, because we have to see the capacity to run fulfillment to the customers and taking care of our supply relationship management.
Thank you, Ajay. Atul, I'll come to you. See, today we are kind of an unipolar world, and surely US can do a lot to keep conflicts out. Some of this does not seem to be happening because there's competition with China and Russia. Russia doesn't directly engage into that kind of a competition with US. However, we still find that these three forces are responsible for kind of anything that happens around the world. Now we are sitting on a situation where South American countries, the Europe, and a lot of many other countries, the African countries are suffering with hunger. Yet we have in a situation where we are sitting and discussing on what should we be doing. And we know that if this conflict gets extended, this is only going to deteriorate the situation. Your views, Atul?
Yeah. See, definitely, we have still not recovered fully from the COVID impact. The economy was still recovering. Chinese, in case, being one of the largest economy, has been going down since then, and yet there are no signs for its recovery. So the world is bound to go through miserable time for at least for unforeseeable future as of now. But one thing is understandable from our history is countries which have not been actively participating in any war are the countries which are likely to grow. And that is where the importance of India and its economy will come. Indian economy will become a stabilizing, force. All as we are also calling ourselves the leaders of global South, so we will bring some kind of solace and peace to large number of countries which are indirectly impacted but not participant in the war. And that is where we should be crossing our fingers, but be prepared for the impact which will come onto our economy. And as supply chain leader, if I may also add to that, Colonel Nair, is keep your eyes and ears open. You can't be just looking into your day-to-day operation. You need to be more strategic by a thought process and become, you need to have a foresight in telling your business leaders as to how do you want to run the supply chain in case of these kind of stresses. Relook at your global supply chain, including your sourcing and exports. A small disruption, a microchip had delayed the car supplies in India. Imagine, the reason may be anything, but it just delayed the entire supply chain. Keep checking on the impacts of the Indian economy that is going to take, whether it is inflation, depreciation of rupee. Cost of manufacturing will go up for some time to come. The cost of operation will also go up. And this will bring supply chain leader under tremendous pressure to reduce the supply chain cost. So this war may appear to be happening somewhere in Israel and Hamas, but the war's impact will be felt in the boardrooms of the Indian companies.
Thank you so much, Atul. It's this is one event that has actually asked us to look once again after COVID on what could happen to our businesses, our country, our economy, our sourcing, our procurement, our manufacturing, and it's a nice time to sit down and relook at our plans, recast them, build our contingencies. Tushar sir, the last word, the most wise word.
No, since both of you are 4G, and I'm going to make some comment is that war is a business. Please understand, right? Every war United States have gone and done, they made money out of it. So please understand that's the bottom line, underlined for everybody to make money. Okay, so Israel is the largest defense supplier, one of the largest defense supplier to India after Russia. So understand, I'm not touching that because that's going to be worrisome. And if China plays some dirty along with Russia, we have that problem as a country. But I'm not ready to think that. I mean, we are quite competent enough to handle that. I think so. What is important is, of course, the world order will be disturbed for sure. Your cost will go up. So, save your cash. If you have a cash, don't blow it up your cash. Do you stop your capex? No. If you have to increase your manufacturing capacity, increase. Third, start looking alternate supply chain as a measure. If things come, test those supply chain lanes. Maybe you ship goods to Australia, and from Australia you may ship it to US. Who knows? Or maybe ship it to Japan and then ship it to US. Whatever maybe, right? So test your supply chain. Fourth, keep your opportunity open. There'll be a great opportunity to replace China and Israel. I think the Israel war is bringing one more. And fifth important aspect is India's value in the world as the highest ever. The China is exposed completely. People will be wary. And where, Holkar is sitting, that region is now realizing probably whether to be with China, okay? Because we've seen in Africa what Chinese have done. So what has happened now with Sri Lanka, right? India could supply power to Sri Lanka. They would have been without electricity forever, right? So I think people are realizing. So this is our time to position ourselves and start smelling opportunity. My only fear is we as an Indian sometimes whole system, I'm not saying private, public and private both, we take time to gear up. At that time, we have to reduce. Ready to change fast. Mindset, people, machine, technology, government processes, machinery, import, trade. Let RBI declare rupee fully convertibility. This is the time, right? Let people come back to India to do that business. So with that, Vijay, I think so. I look at now one more to replace other than China, which is Israel. Sound little selfish, but banya hai hum log.
That's the way business is supposed to be looked at. We look at opportunities. Like we say in the army, we prime a bomb before it's got to be, so we are actually primed. We are actually primed. I think we are best placed in the world to be primed to take on opportunities in terms of technology, in terms of
There's one small fear. Our election coming next year, that is bothering me, right? So if the election brings some results which are, I am not political, any party comes, but it has to be absolute majority.
So
We have
there's
seen
one thing.
what we can do. Yeah.
Let me also be optimistic like you are, sir. Is that so far in the last so many years, while the governments have changed, but the policies have generally remained consistent, right, since Narasimha Rao's time. So I think we will take on. Of course, how they go through, how they are voted in the parliament will be a question. But however, the policies have been consistent, and that's why we have grown. Uh, I have conducted many panels, maybe what 60 of them, I think. But I think this has been the most interesting panel. A lot of information, which of the strategic level. which is something which we miss out in most panels. We end up going down to operational and tactics. This panel has discussed a lot of strategic matters. The people who have attended this our panel, who are watching as audience, I'm sure are thoroughly benefited. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everybody. It's been very, very interesting. I will hand over to Rachayita now for any questions that are there from the audience. Thank you so much, everybody. I really
And
enjoyed conducting.
thank you, Vijay. You are a great moderator. You let us speak. So that's a great one.
Thank you.
Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind. Thank you. Yeah, Rachayita.
Cheta, you are mute.
Thank you, sir. So I was saying thank you so much, gentlemen, for this highly stimulating discussion. And although everything that has been talked about today is highly knowledgeable, there are three things that particularly intrigue me. That is the role of China and Russia in all of this, the war being a war of proxies, and yes, of course, the question on who will end this war. I will definitely be thinking on these 3 points. They will linger on in my mind. But I would also like to ask one of you to please talk about how the war will impact the plans for I2U2 or the West Asian Quad. Because ironically, a direct target of the Israel Hamas war is water, energy, transport, health, and food security. That is the areas of interest for I2U2. So, if any one of you could answer that for me.
So if I can take this, Karan, see, I2U2 involves one I which is currently in dispute, and that's Israel, right? And that no country in Middle East is likely to, at this stage, seem to be interacting with Israel. All of them, they may be talking in back channels to Israel. Egypt is talking, Saudi Arabia, maybe UAE, definitely Qatar to some extent is talking to Israel how to end this conflict or come out of it. But fact is, to publicly acknowledge Israel as a partner in a business is an absolute no at this time. 6 months down the lane, 1 year down the lane, probably when things start cooling down, things will happen. But at this stage, no. Saudi Arabia, United States, Western world, India, and Israel are back onto the drawing board to counter this entire anti-Israel, anti-West narrative to ensure that the Chinese-Russian alliance does not become so overpowering that they decide the geopolitics of the world.
Right.
Let me
Thank you.
add one more point to this, Racheta. Even
Sure.
the India, we today need to stand neutral. And it is in best interest that we give a pause to this development which is happening. Because if we today try to push this further up, we may seem to be siding too much or leaning too much towards Israel, which is not wanted. It will not be acknowledged by the international community. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to add on anything? Okay, then. We can move on to the questions. We have a couple of questions. I think people were too intrigued in the conversation to post questions because we don't have much. Anyways, so I'll take the first question from Gaurav. He asks if Qatar will come up for mediating between Israel and Hamas to stop the war since they have relations on both sides.
I'll start and then give it to Atul and Tushar. See, Qatar is a very, very rich country, highest per capita in the world. Qatar has been host for most of the terrorist organizations. They're all headquartered there. They have been playing both sides, support and mediation. They usually instigate and then they mediate. They are a small country trying to gain an ascendancy again. Everybody's trying to gain that level of leadership in Middle East. So if there is anybody qualified to do it, it is Qatar. I don't think there's anybody else. So from that point, Qatar will get its support what it requires. But we need to see only once Israel is satiated completely, then can it actually move towards the negotiation table. And to satiate it, I think US is the only power which can put any kind of hold on him, nobody else. Anybody else wants to join, please?
No, you're right, Vijay, because see, for Israel to kill 1,400 people and 300 people hostages, they are not going to keep quiet. They're very angry. And the time of the attack was that some social event which was happening. I don't have exact detail, which has hurt them most. And they will try to score as much as, and that time would be given to them to settle, for what, because they also have to achieve what they have to achieve to their own people. So Qatar, of course, has money, and like what Vijay said, they're all sitting there with them, whether it be Hamas or be Taliban or whoever it is. They have a headquarter in Qatar, and Qatar has always played this. That's why, as a protection. So one side they have US base there, other side they have this organization there, and they have the money. So sometimes I don't understand this. Maybe Colonel Holkar may be able to explain. But you have terrorists sitting there, you've got US sitting there, you've got a money, you're mediating. I don't understand this. But Qatar will have to play a bigger role.
Right.
See, as of now, what I think is Qatar's limited role is to release Western hostages currently with Hamas. That is the top priority, because unnecessarily Qatar would not like American and Western pressure on itself, because of its very close link with Hezbollah and Hamas and other organization in Middle East. But in longer run, anything that is going to happen will happen only when Israel achieve its basic military aim of, it has gone far too inside Hamas now for Israel to withdraw without achieving its simple aims of eliminating or breaking the backbone of Hamas, so that they are unable to launch a similar attack in future.
Right, right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We also have another question from Gaurav, and that's for Kunal. And he asks, how much insurance cost of the ocean freight might go up in the present situation of ships sailing towards the Middle East? What are
Okay,
your predictions?
sure. So as of now, it's too early to tell the exact number, how much prices will increase. But as per my knowledge and past situations that happened, it might go up to 10%, what we have forecasted.
Thank you
So
so much.
I'll just add to it that we are seeing this insurance cost because on the various uh, cost materials going up between 8 to 10%. Already we are seeing it, and I think it will remain at the level of 10%, where the security of material and all other things will be there. So
Right, right. Thank you so much. We have our next question, and that's from Mr. Iqbal K. He asks, what about the tri state agreements? Will there be any changes to those emerged during 2023 between different countries?
I
I,
think I mean, what kind of tri-state agreement I'm looking at is probably the one which China brought in with Saudi Arabia and Iran. That was the tri-state agreement of, bridging the gap between Saudi Arabia and Iran to play as a mediator. But what I think is now that is in tatters. Somewhere Saudi Arabia is, realizing that it has been actually given a very false assurance and hope of stabilizing. This particular period has been taken advantage by Iran, and it is, in a big way, it activated the Islamic population across the globe as the leader of the Islamic world. So I don't think this will go any further
Further
beyond this.
beyond this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. These are all the questions that we have. And the audience, I'd like to tell you, if you want to discuss or talk to our experts about this topic, you can directly reach out to them on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'll spare some time to answer your queries. So, I think the Israel Hamas war has once again highlighted the potential vulnerability of supply chains. And considering that businesses are increasingly reliant on interconnected network that spans across the globe, any disruption in these networks can have cascading effects. So ultimately, all of it becomes a sort of like a stack of dominoes. If one falls, so does the others. But yes, overall, it is currently a wait and watch scenario, and we need to keep a sharp eye. As mentioned by our experts, the war is currently a case in point, but if the situation evolves beyond a warning threshold, multiple industries, multiple facets of the global economy will be affected by it, and especially oil trade. So, addressing its impact on global trade and supply chains requires a coordinated effort on diplomatic initiatives, conflict resolution, and regional stability. Now, with this, I'd like to close the curtains on this show. I thank our esteemed guest speakers for taking out time to participate in the discussion and engaging us with this knowledge sharing session. It was a pleasure to host this gathering. And I'm also going to thank our audience for their support and participation in the show. You have been great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
Have
very
a
much.
much.
great rest of the day.